Okay, hope you're having a great evening. So, like I said, this video will be creating the interaction system. Before we jump into it, I made a few changes. So we're using the IMC default, which is what's it called? Input mapping context or something like that. I can't remember what it is. Um, so I created this. We're gonna have a few new folders. So I created a few new MTL folders to kind of get us ready. So we've got our widget, which has got our. We already did that in the last video. So we've got blueprints for blueprint actors, interface, BP interface will go in here. So we're going to need to create these two new folders. I think we already did these two the last video. And in the third person blueprint, I've done some changes. So the flashlight now is using the IMC, so the input mapping context. So, and I'll show you how I created that rather than here where we used in the previous where we did the input here for the flashlight and the crouch. You can use them, but they're not connected to anything anymore. I've disconnected them, so you can just throw them away. Or delete them and replace it with this. And it's pretty straightforward to create. So you can see here the crouch, so the triggered goes into crouch, and the cancelled or complete goes into uncrouch. I found that worked well. It was holding for some reason when I did one or the other, so I just done both, and then that seemed to fix it. Anyway, I'll show you how to create these events. So if you want to create this event in your third person blueprint folder, you have this folder called inputs, and in here you've got this AMC and actions. So before we go into this, we need to go to actions, and in here you can see I've already got one called IA crouch and IA flashlight. So what you need to do is you'll have these three, and all you're going to do is just duplicate. So Control D, duplicate, and then we can call this one. I'll just name this one interaction because we will need an interaction one. But for you, if you haven't created, if you don't have the crouch and the flashlight, you could create those two now. But I'll just call this one interaction, like so. Okay, and that's all you have to do. You just have to duplicate and copy this. And then in the inputs in the IMC here, the same way we did when we go edit properties inputs, this is pretty similar, but it's just a lot easier. You don't have to go through a big menu. It's all in here. We're going to hit mapping, add, and then from here we're going to select the 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 mapping file, the input action that we want. So for this one will be the interaction. So this is the one I created. If you've just created the crouch one, then it will be crouch. If you create flashlight with flashlight, same thing. So interaction, and then you click on the drop down, and the same way you just click here and you select which key you want to assign it to. Once you do that, hit save. Make sure you hit save, and then you can close this. Now you can call this up by typing IA underscore and then interaction, for example, and you can pull that event up and then link whatever you need to it, right? We're going to do this later. Don't worry, we'll use this later. However, yeah, so for this, so you can see, so for the flashlight, it's just on started, and that just connects to the branch. And like I said, for the crouch, triggered goes to crouch, and then I did the cancel and complete to uncrouch. And that's all. And you may have noticed I've also commented the sections. If you want to comment, you can just hold down the left mouse button and press C, right? And then you can just name that crouch. Hopefully I spelled that right. But yeah, so you can now keep it nice and tidy in your scene. Okay. Anyway, I'm gonna hit compile and save. If I go play, just to show you, it still works the same. So where we left it off, where we left off from, what should I say? Sorry, it's a bit of a long intro. But yeah, control. You can see we're crouched. If we go over here in the dark, you can see you can toggle the light on and off. No problem. Okay, cool. So everything works fine. So what we want to do first is create a line trace. So we want to be able to fire a line. Say we want to shoot to know what we're clicking on. So from our camera view, we're shooting at a line trace that tells us if we've hit an object or not. If we're interacting with that object, for example, this cube, if we was clicking on it, or this wall, or whatever it is, a light switch or a button, we want to know that we've clicked it. So we need to create the logic for this. So we're going to start in the where we're going to start. We're going to start here with a blueprint. In your blueprints, you're going to make a folder called BP interface. Then you can right click and then go to blueprints, and we want to create a blueprint interface and call this BPI interface. I'm going to keep this lowercase, BPI underscore capital I interaction, not interface, interaction. So BPI interaction. Double click this. The function I'll call interaction. This is what we will call later. We'll call this function and then we'll be able to, use it. Hit save, compile and save. You can close that, and that's pretty much done. All right. So next, what we want to do in our third person blueprint is we want to create another function that, so if we click here, function, we want to create a new function and we're going to call this line trace, right? Capital T, there we go, line trace. And from here, we want to know like the camera, from the camera's point of view, what we're looking at and where we're hitting, right? So we need to work out this what's going on. So from here, it's hard to explain, but here, from your line trace, this function, we're going to say we want line trace by channel, line trace traced by channel. There we go. Okay, and we need to get the world position, so which will be the cameras, our current where we are, our start position, where we are in the world. All right, which is easy. So we just say get world location, boom, and that can just go straight into the start, right? So there. Now this bit is a little bit complicated. Now I still don't fully understand like the whole multiplying, adding, and stuff like this, but to get to the end result. But I've seen so many people do it, and it seems it does work. So we're gonna just do what they do, hopefully. So what we want to do is from the camera, we want to get the forward vector. So we want to know which way we're facing. So get forward vector. Boom. All right. And then here on our line trace, we need to add some inputs. So we need to create what's it called? An input for the length. So we go input, and then we're going to say a float, and call this length. Let's make sure I spell this right. TTH length. That looks right. Or is it the G goes between the T and the H? No, the G goes before the T and H. Length. See, I'm never very good at spelling. Sorry. All right. We can also add the debug. So the debug will show us, we can see if we're hitting the thing. So we can also add this to. So to add this to the line trace, we can just drag this to the line trace, and it will add that to it. All right. And what we want to do is we want to add so we want to multiply the length and the forward vector, and then add the world component, and then that links to the output of the end. All right, so we're going to go right here. So I'm going to write multiply. So this is our multiply node, and I said we're going to take the length, which goes in here, and then we're going to take the return from the forward vector, right? And then we're going to add the value from our world location and the output of this. Well, we've multiplied these two together, and this will go into the end. So we're going to say add. Okay, that can go into the end like so. This goes in here, and this goes in here. Boom. Right, so this, it looks a little bit messy. Hopefully it makes some sort of sense. I guess the more you do it, the more, you know, it kind of makes sense. I don't know. It still doesn't make sense, but it kind of makes sense at the same time. Anyway, what we're going to do is from this hit out, so we're going to drag out from this hit and break result. And we want to, we need a line trace from the output. So we want to take the hit actor as an output. So we're going to create output and call this hit actor. So capital A actor. And then change this to actor as well. Actor. Object type actor. There you go. And it'll create this little return node here. And we're going to connect this to the return node. And from the hit actor, we're going to go straight into this. All right. And I think that's all we need to do. Right. Everything else should be fine. In here, yeah, everything should be fine. I'm going to just press C and then call this line trace. Let's do a capital T so that I know what this is. This is the line trace, okay? I'm going to compile, save. All right. And then, 1 second. Let me go here. Whoops. We're going to go to our blueprint. So line trace is done. We can close this. What we're going to do is call our, what's it called? Let's go here. Not blueprints. The input action for we want to use our enhance interaction, right? So we need to add this in and assign the logic to this here. So we want to call in the IA. Actually, no, we don't. No, we don't need to. Do we? Yeah. IA. I'm thinking interaction, right? And then from the started, we want line trace, which is our function. So you can see this is the function we created, and you can see the length here that we've. So the length is how far away from where we are the camera to the object before we can say you can interact with it. So if I say, oh, you can only interact with it from like 300, I don't know, let's say 300 meters, or no, 300 meters too long, like 300 centimeters. Oh, I don't know what the length is in here, but I'll just say 300. We can change this, but let's say 300 or 200 or 50, whatever you want. The distance of that line, the length of this line that we're shooting out of the camera. All right. The debug will turn on so you can see it, so you know what it is. All right. Okay. So from this line trace, we're going to say is valid. All right. Oops, wrong one. From the hit actor is valid. valid. There we go. And we also want does implement does, because this is going to be our interface. So we're going to say the BPI underscore interaction. All right, this is our blueprint, the blueprint interface we created, which is in here. BP interface, a BPI interaction, right? BPI interaction, which we're calling, right? And what we want to do is, I mean, we want to do is, we want to say this, we want to say check this and this, rather than have two branches, right? So, like, rather than have a branch, true, false again. So we're going to add these two together like an and. So just type and boolean and put this into here, like so. And from here, we're going to hit B for branch, and this condition can go into here. Okay. And then what we have to do now is called interaction, which will fire. And we need to say what the target is, which is the hit actor. Boom. And if I hit C, call this line trace as well. Line trace. Okay. Compile. Save. No errors. Let's go into our scene and hit play. And now if we hit E, you can see, so this is the line I'm saying. So this is set to 300. So this is how far from the object, say from this blue cube, not purple, blue cube, we're actually making contact with this. So it will draw a line till it hits that, you know. It actually goes through. So if I click here, E, you can see it's, you know, where it's made contact because it's now gone green from that point where it's hit. And then it's, you know, it's saying we've hit this, okay? So we know this is working. So now we can say, okay, we're clicking, we know that we're clicking, pressing E, and this is what we're clicking on, right? So now let's make an object that we can say, okay, this is being clicked on, right? Just to know, so we know it's working. I know it's working, but now we'll just create a blueprint actor that will respond to the click, right? To the logic. Okay, so we're going to go to content window, blueprint actors. We're going to create a new blueprint class, actor. Now you can call this what you want. I'm just going to call this BP. I'll just call this BP test object, because we'll replace this later. We'll make something else. Object. There we go. So this is just our test object. In here, I'm going to just add a static mesh. You could of course use a cube or whatever you want, but I'll use a static mesh because then you could change that later. You know, you can still put the cube in. So there's a cube. If you want to give it a material, you know, like, I don't know, red or orange. Okay, orange, whatever this orange is. There we go. I don't know what this color is. Okay, so it's just a cube, right? Now for us to use our blueprint interface, we need to add it to the class defaults. So go, sorry, no, class settings, not the class defaults, class settings. And you're going to go here, implement interfaces, and we're going to say BPI interaction. And now you can see it's now added into our scene, into our blueprint for this actor. So now if we go to the event graph, we don't need to use any of these because we're going to use the interaction. So if I double click, now this is what we're going to use to say, okay, you've clicked on the cube, this static mesh cube, and we want to I don't know, print a string or destroy the actor, or, you know, I don't, pick up the object or whatever it is, turn the light switch on, whatever logic is that happens after this. So let's do for now print string, all right, and call this hello, we clicked on the cube. Stop clicking on me. Yeah, so this text will come up, right? All we're doing is compile, hit save, and that's it. We go back into our scene, and let's place the cube in our world. Oh, it's kind of like a semi-transparent material. That's fine. We're gonna hit play. So when we go up to this cube, we'll see in the top left the message, the print string message. So we know that it's actually clicking, right? So I'll go to that cube here, go around the cube, nothing. Click on the cube. Hello. You see on the top left it says it. Hello, we clicked on the cube. Stop clicking on me. There you go. Actually, they're showing it as a transparent. You can see when it hits and makes contact, it goes green from that point where it hits. But yeah, so now you can now interact with that. So if this was a light switch and I press E, for example, then I could say, toggle the visibility of the light or change the intensity or open a door. So now we have a system in place that we can press the E key to interact with objects or trigger events inside our world, right? Now there are other ways to do, there's so many different ways of doing this, but I think this is a popular way. A lot of people are doing it, and we'll do the same. All right. So now we know it's working. We can turn off the line trace. We don't need to actually see the debug mode. So to do that, you just go into your content, go into your blueprint. Sorry. And here, wherever you want to, do the debug, you can just turn it on and then turn it off. There you go. Click compile, save that, and that'll be fine. Then we go change that cube texture. Instead, we can also say destroy actor. So now that'll destroy the cube. I should put a delay in here. Delay. So it'll print the string first, and then a 1 second delay, then it will destroy itself and disappear from the scene. So, and let's just change that material to something else. I don't know, something solid, a solid color. There we go. Compile, save. So now this test object will destroy itself. So if I add a few in here, so then we can just delete them after. So we can go boom, can drop them in. Actually, I can just copy and paste Control C and Control V and move this around. Let's put one over here. Oh, okay, hit play. So now if I go up to this, it says you clicked it and then it just disappears, right? You can see the other objects are here. I haven't pressed E, I hit E on it, boom. It says you clicked and then 1 second after it destroys the actor. So it's removed. You can still interact with this, so we can jump on this, we can crouch on it, we can turn our light on, we can press E, stand on it. Oh, it's gone. Too late. There you go. So now we can interact with our world in some way. Next, let's maybe make a light switch or a door, and slowly start building like elements for the world. Okay, so let's get started. Let's go. We'll do this in the next video. Okay, bye bye. Thank you again, and I hope this is helpful. I know I waffle on a lot, but yeah, enjoy your evening, morning, night, or day. Bye bye.